This is Larry Ricker from LarryRicker.com, and I'm going to continue. This is my 8th video on Appium testing. And in this video, I'm going to get into troubleshooting. I'm going to look through the debugging a particular test that's currently failing, and then I'm going to drill in on the logs, look at the logs, show you where the logs are located, and then if there's not enough information there, add screenshots, look at the screenshots, try to figure out the issue with the screenshots, and then go in, if necessary, maybe deal with some timing issues or renaming some elements, reordering some steps, and just general cleaning up an Appium test, getting it started. Without further ado, I'm going to switch over to that now. So this is my iPhone 5S, and this is the application, the progress report, which we'll be debugging. Jumping right into building out a POM file so that we could run Maven build, and because it was more verbose, but I decided on a different approach here. I'm gonna, since we've already started with Gradle, we've got the Gradle builds going, let's just continue down that thread and see how far we get with debugging this with just pure Gradle. So the command to test is Gradle clean test. Now that's the command I ran when it failed, but if you add some options, you can add a --info Gradle test, and what that will do is it'll print all the logging lines greater than a info level. And then if you add some more options, and wait a second, just clean up my desktop here. You can add the --info, or you can add --debug, and then do a clean test. And that will give you anything with a logging level of debug, info level, severe, or quiet. So all those levels will come out on the screen. So it'll be more verbose and you'll get more information. But the one thing I liked about Maven is that it printed out the stack traces directly in the console. So you can do that with Gradle as well. And to do that, you just do, there's two options. There's dash stack trace, actually stack stack trace, and then there's dash stack trace full. But I'm just going to do the stack trace level because I think it's actually stack trace dash full. But if you go to that level, it gives you a lot of information that is a bit over, a little bit more than you need, because the level of detail it gives you the Gradle tool and its stack, as well as the stuff relevant to your application. And you remember in my first video I set up the Born Again shell with the path with Gradle in it. So I have to obviously launch a Born Again shell in order to have access to Gradle. But I kind of prefer Born Again shell. Now, one of my other windows here, I've got the Appium desktop running. Oh, actually, I haven't started the server yet. Kind of want to have that going. That'll give it the Appium that it will connect to. So I can run Appium server on the command line with a command like Appium &, and that'll run Appium in the background. But rather than doing that, the easiest way is just to, since it's desktop anyway, is just launch Appium desktop, start a server, and now you can see that Born Again shell is actually connecting over here. That Gradle script running Appium is actually connecting to this view and starting the application up here. So it might actually be helpful to see both the Born Again shell and the Appium desktop. You can rearrange your windows as however you like, so I'm going to go with that configuration for now. And that way you can see the app running, you can see the Born Again shell, and then you can see Appium there. So the advantage this dash dash stack trace is going to give us is when this app crashes, we're going to get a nice Java stack trace, and the stack trace is going to show us a bunch of line numbers and help us locate the exact issue that we're having. Okay, so now it's crashed, or it's, I guess, failed and resulted in a stack trace, which is common with Java. So most of the Selenium as well as Appium architectures based on stack throwing exceptions and exception handling. So the assertions are handled through exceptions, and you typically deal with errors through exception handling. So a lot of these references here, org.gradle, those are not your app. You're looking for the package of your particular app. So mine would be com.larryricker, and that's what I'd be searching for. So I want to scroll through this stack trace. It's quite lengthy, but if you're eyeing up these packages here and you're just looking for your organization, you can hone in on the error quite quickly. Maybe we can see spot something better. Okay. Well, what we have here is we do have a stack trace, but the stack trace is not terribly helpful in that I can't seem to find com.larryricker anywhere in the stack trace. So let's see what the error is. It's always at the top. Task execution exception. Execution failed for task JUnit platform test. And then it says you can use the dash dash debug to get more information. So that may be helpful. But let me show you where the logs are located. So if you're on a Windows-based system, I'm not, but if you were, you would use the File Explorer in that operating system to navigate to where your package is located. Now, since my project is in Documents, I go to there, and then I go to Workspace. And then I've got my stuff under Get, and then Project Organizer Appium. Now this is the base of my project right here. And you could position the view however you wish. And then you have all your source code in the src directory. When we set up Gradle, we set it up as source test main, and that's where the source is. And then that's our source test Java, and then com Larry Ricker's the packages, and then there's the source of our project. Now, when it compiles those Java files, it creates class files, and those get put in the build directory, and then it executes the tests. Well, the classes get put here, so you'll have your class files here, main, com, actually it's test, com, Larry Ricker, and there's the classes. That's the compiled source. So when you do a clean, it actually deletes these class files and then forces the build process of Gradle to rebuild everything. So also in this directory, the build directory, is the test results. And that's the directory where you want to look. You want to go test results, JUnit platform, and then in here you'll have any screenshots that you created, as well as you'll have this XML file. So if you open that up, it'll open it up in your favorite browser, or let's like it could open it up in a web browser if you have it associated with that. In this case, on this platform, it's Xcode. Go into that directory and look for a file, in this case testsmoke.java, and there's a reference to line 69. So now I'll jump over to Eclipse, and then I'll go into my project, navigate to the package directory, find my test smoke, and go to line 69. Now you can do a Control L to go directly to a line number. Now, you can on Windows, and on Mac it would be Command L. And here we're clicking on enhancements. So it ran through the tests, it inserted a bunch of projects, and then it clicked on enhancements, and enhancements was not there. Now if we go over to the view of the app running, you can see enhancements is there. So it was there, but it said it wasn't there. So the best thing to do at this point might be to take a screenshot of the exact moment when it failed and see what the screen looks like, and that's probably the best bet. So I think what I'm going to do is I'll stop the video, put in some code to create a screenshot, and then I'll add that code and then put a line in here. I'll put the line right here, what it is. It's going to be app.snap anyway. And I'm going to pass in a test reporter object. And that's something I haven't introduced so far, but test reporter is one of those parameters that you can pull in JUnit 5. And the way you pull it in is you take that particular method, that test method, and you add a parameter to the method call and call it test reporter, and it'll pull in the test reporter object, and then you instantiate a test reporter. Of course you could name it anything you want, but I just go with this naming convention because I do. Whoops. Got to hover and wait for it to resolve. Then pull that in from Jupyter. We ran that test. So I first fixed the code and then reran the test. We've got a screenshot here now. And as you can see, this is on a transition. It had clicked on the settings button, gone into the settings, then actually added another project, then clicked on the continue button, and then was segueing back to the main screen, and that's why enhancements was not available because of timing. Timing's typically something you have to deal with automated testing, whether it's Selenium or apparently Appium. This is the first time I've had to deal with this on Appium. So how we typically deal with that is before you click on something, you wait for it. It isn't there. So I'll do an app.wait for, and then I'll pass in an ID of enhancements, like that. Accessibility identifier. That's a really long word, but I think I'll do that. So it's going to be wait for accessibility ID. I'll just make it ID. That's nice and short. And then what I'll do is I'll build that method. So let's do that. Okay, create method. All right, here it is. So what are we going to do in this method? There's a lot of ways to wait. Now, the simplest way to wait is just do a thread dot sleep 1000. That'll wait a second. But that's not ideal, because if you run this on an iPhone 5, you might have to wait 1 second, and then you run it on an iPad 2, you might have to wait 2 seconds, and then if you put these things all over the place, you're waiting for specific amounts of time over and over again, and you're just wasting you're slowing down all your tests and making the thing really slow. So one of these is an implicit wait, the other one is an explicit wait. I can't remember which one's which, but what we want to do is the opposite. We want to wait for something specific and then continue. So the way we do that, well, and like I said, there's a bunch of ways to do it, but the way I like to do it after doing a lot of these is a do-while loop, because do-while loops are, well, they're convenient. So, and it's clean, and it looks pretty good. So what I'll typically do is I'm going to sleep in here, but I'm going to put the sleep inside the do-while loop, and I'm not going to wait that long. I'm going to wait a very short period of time, like maybe, well, half a second will be, the half a second's that's a pretty small amount of time. But, mobile, it might even want to wait less time than that. I mean, these things are kind of snappy. So, and you basically have a devoted CPU sitting there right there, giving a really quick performance. So maybe I might want to get that down a little bit. Typically, I'll set a counter at the beginning, and then I'll increment the counter inside the do-while loop, and then I'll wait a specific amount of time. So count is less than, so a half a second, 20 would be 10 seconds. Now, that would just be a waste of like 10 seconds right there. Let me add throws. Okay, and then that would waste 10 seconds. But in order to shorten that, if the thing I'm waiting for is available, I want to end right away. So I will do an and app.find and pass in my string, which I should name as using. And now we're going to have that needs to be a Boolean, so it's not equal to null. And this probably throws an exception. Okay, so there's my wait for accessibility ID, and then I'm just going to do this do-while loop and wait. That worked a few seconds ago. I don't know what happened to the Control D thing, or Command D. It was working earlier. So this is going to loop around and around up to 10 seconds, but if that accessibility ID is available, it's going to stop immediately. So it might just loop one time. Now, to give me some idea of how long it waited, I could put a counter in here and output the results, but I'm just gonna not do that because I don't want a bunch of noise, and I just trust that it'll do its thing. So let's go back here. We seem to have an error here, and I have to add a throws clause. Okay. All right. So I think we're ready to run. Okay. So I'm running outside, or at least I have been running outside of Eclipse. I can run inside of Eclipse as well, but may want to adjust the layout of that project name label, make it a little wider. Now, as I mentioned earlier, I'm going to go in here and try to speed up this wait here. So previously I was waiting a half a second between iteration. I'm going to bring that down to 1/10 of a second, and I'm going to increase the number of iterations up from 20 to 5 times that to get the same time duration. So 5 times that would be 100. And then I'm going to run this test again and loop through here and see how many iterations we count off before it gets to the next screen. So I control click here, and I want to get a terminal to run the test, so I do show in terminal. You can also do system browser, and that will launch a Finder window on the Mac. Oh, right. And when it launches, it's automatically in the directory, so you don't have to change directories. That was kind of the point. Okay, and then from here, I just want to run my test. So Gradle clean test. Now I have this US new WDA set to false. That means don't install the local app, the IPA file, onto the device. I'm using the version I compiled with Xcode instead. Now I do have the app settings set in the configuration, so I could install the app by just changing the use new WDA flag from false to true. And I plan to do that in future videos, particularly for the destructive tests, which I'm going to be performing. The destructive tests will be executing the app and then clicking on that button to purchase an upgraded app, and then switch over to the upgraded app, so it will effectively go from Progress Report to Progress Report Pro during the test, and then continue and can go through the tests there so it's sort of testing both applications. But the primary point is to test the upgrade, the in-app purchase, to verify that the in-app purchase works. Another test scenario I was looking at was doing the in-app purchase and then cancel, because previously I'd had a defect where if somebody had an old version, they could click on the upgrade, click on the cancel, and then they would get the upgraded version despite being canceled on the purchase until they closed the app and restarted it. So don't know how many people figured that out, but kind of want to make sure that that bug doesn't exist. Okay, so this is sort of showing the behavior difference that I thought I saw before. It's sort of a confirmation of that. The cell enhancements that you see on the screen there is named project cell when it's first created, like when you launch the app and it goes in there and it adds new projects. But then it's automatically renamed to enhancements if you close the app and relaunch it. So I had originally written the test with the word enhancements in there as the accessibility ID, because I had gone through Appium desktop and pulled the accessibility ID, and it was enhancements, which I was delighted with because I thought that was a good name for it, and I could click on each individual project. But at this point, enhancements is clearly on the screen, but it's not called project cell. It's called enhancements. So I'm going to have to, well, I have to start this test from the state of being a clean app with no projects in order for it to run successfully. So that being said, I'm going to look at another issue right now with the test that I'm also going to try to fix. So the first identifier is the title field at the top of the screen. Then it has the question block, which is in blue there, and it types in the question. And then there's the answer block, which is yellow below. And as you can see, when it enters the new defect, it types all the information into the question field for the answer. And as you can see, some of these test cases I purposely put in the test to describe some of the test cases I plan to build in future videos. I tend to think of test cases faster than I can write them. Okay, let's see what our test result was. Okay, so we were build successful on that, but as you could see, there were a couple of things that were wrong. It could not find the accessibility ID for enhancements, despite enhancements being right here. So, as I mentioned, the solution for that is going to be pretty easy. I can use the delete, swipe delete, or the edit delete, and delete these fields, or delete the projects. I could do that programmatically too. If the test finds that there are projects at the beginning of the test, I could programmatically delete them to sort of set up the test to begin with at a state where there is no test. Or I could set that WPA flag to say yes or true and install a new app. And that would also solve the problem because a fresh install of the app. And there were a number of reset flags that I could also use. And I could reset the app and that would wipe out the data as well. So any one of those approaches would be fine for making sure that this test runs with a clean build. So actually, I might just do one of those right now. So the way I would do that is I go into the resources. I'm going to find the JSON file for this particular test, or this particular device or app, and open that in the editor here. I'm going to use the text editor and just edit it in raw format. Okay, so the clear system files. See, I've got all these things, full reset, false. I'll change that to a true. No reset to true, I'll set that to a false. Kind of going crazy here. Clear system files, I'm going to change that from false to true. I'm thinking that's going to wipe out any projects that are in the device at the time the test starts. And I won't even have to do a fresh device install of an app. But if I wanted to go further, I would just do a use new WDA. But I want to use the version that was installed by Xcode, not the version that's in this directory. After I recompile all the apps, after I get this a little further along, I'm going to rebuild all the apps and then start doing destructive tests and installing a new app, because I know wiping out that app and installing the app is the only way I can get it to reset on an in-app purchase. So I'll have a test that does a restore purchases, I'll have a test that does an in-app purchase, and etc. Now, regarding in the earlier video, I wasn't sure, it didn't show up in Appium Desktop, the pop-up for the in-app purchase, but I was watching a video by the creator of Appium actually, and he hinted that those are handled as alerts. So I'm quite familiar with handling alerts in Selenium, so I'm going to do an alert handle, either an alert accept to make a purchase or an alert dismiss to cancel that purchase. So that's a future. I don't know if I'll get to that in this video. So the other thing I wanted to do, okay, so I did the changing the reset, I deleted the projects, and then I was going to do the focus. Focus or, either focus or tap. I'm going to try, let's do tap. I've already got a function for tap. I don't have a function for focus. So I'm in app, and I have enter keys, and when I enter text, and at the beginning of enter text, I'm going to do a tap on the same field. So I have the using coming in, so then I just have to do I do a find element, and I've got the web element right here, so then I could do a tap on that, and a tap translates into a click because of the legacy of this coming from Selenium. So Selenium was built for web pages. So I'll just change this clear to a click. And then I'll rerun the test and see if we get the focus inside the correct field before we start typing. That may be all I need to do. But hey, I have other options if that doesn't work. So I got that all rebuilt. Now I'm going to tap right here twice, or click here twice, and then relaunch that test. And we've changed quite a few things. I usually like to change one thing between each test run, and that way I know specifically what fixed it, but I'm just doing this for expedience. You still have the use new WDA false. Now you can go read about these device capabilities. In one of my previous videos I showed you how to read a properties file, get the name of the JSON file, then go and parse the JSON file and pull in all the capabilities and use them directly the way they're created in Appium Desktop. I figured that would save people a lot of time, but I also selfishly did it to save myself some time too. Now in Eclipse you can double click on a header of any part of these windows or panels and it'll expand it to full screen. So you can put the focus on where you want the focus to be. Okay, so we have a timing issue here. It was launching the, it was doing a segue, and it was segueing from the project view, list view, to the new project view. And the page had not quite loaded, or the segue had not completed, and it was sweeping across in a animated manner, but it hadn't swept across yet. So this is classic timing issue, type of thing you deal with every day with automated testing, whether you're doing Selenium or Appium. So let's deal with it. So we're clicking here, we're in Create New Project, we click on Add. Now I need to resolve the timing issue, so what I'm going to do is wait. And I've got two methods now to wait. I'm going to pick one and execute it right here. But it's important to get the order of operations right. You want to wait before you take the screenshot so that to see if your wait worked. So I'm going to wait for accessibility. I've also got wait for screen to load. They basically work the same way. I've got wait for accessibility ID is the one I wrote. I pulled the other one off the web. And I'm going to use the one I wrote and test that out further. And I want to wait for the edit project name. Project name edit. Okay, so I'm going to do the save all and run it again. I should close this file out because when the test runs, it needs to delete the directory. So I don't want to have the cursor inside that directory, or else it won't be able to clear it. That's the clean operation. It deletes the build directory when it does the clean. So there is nothing in that directory at this time. There will be in a second after the test runs. Okay, just took a screenshot. You saw that show up. And it looked like the XML showed up, so that probably means the test failed. Okay. Project name, edit, accessibility ID. Okay, let's look at our screenshot. Okay, so the page fully loaded, and it still did not find project name edit. So now we have to go back and verify the accessibility ID with Appium Desktop. So we've got Appium Desktop, we start a new session. And we're going to attach to the progress report auto. Start new session. And now this is going to launch. You can see it launching over here. I'm a little more comfortable showing that screen now that I've deleted the password from that capabilities file. Okay, launch the application. And now this view over here, well, this one's a screenshot. We can close that. This is a view of QuickTime Player running, and then this is a view inside of Appium Desktop. So what the test does is it locates this field here, which you really can't locate just by clicking on it there. You have to go down here, locate it, and click the Add button, then tap on it. And that'll launch the panel. It loads quicker in the QuickTime than it does in any other thing. So here is the text field, XCUI element type text field. And it's missing the accessibility ID. You test that IPA file, that's the IPA file. That precise version is the one that you want to get into the App Store. The one that was physically tested. Not a regenerated version or a recompiled version, but the actual file that was tested. So I have to pick my target here, but before I recompile, I'm going to verify the accessibility ID. Okay. Close down this window. That's the field we're entering the data into. Project name edit, it's right there. Well, actually that shouldn't be populated, but project name edit, that should work. We'll delete it from there. You got to make sure you update the right field, the identifier field. Now I'm just going to check some of these other fields to make sure. Yeah, this one also has status to add. You know, I deleted these on my last video, and I must have been in the wrong file when I did this. Question text field, that is correct. Answer text field, that is correct. Then there is a status report title. Status report title, good. Okay, then we'll go to the next segue. Next view. Answer. Text field, correct. Now I'm down here. Question text field, correct. Status report title, correct. Okay, let's go a little further. Now we're going into the paid app. Okay, this one, I did delete this on the previous video. It must have been the wrong file. Okay. Status report title, correct. Question text field, correct. Answer text field, good. Question text field, good. Answer text field, correct. Now, it's showing my cursors here. Let's see if my cursor jumps if I click here. Or wait, maybe it's here. Maybe I'm here. No, definitely not there. Let's see if I click on this field again. Does it position the cursor? It doesn't really reposition it here. Let's see if I click here. No, that changes views. So that was not the same one. Okay, I want to be here. Is it this one? Okay, that seems to be the correct one. Question, answer, and then go down to navigation, status report title. Okay, those all look good. Now the other two fields I want to verify, all the text fields are the ones that need to have these identifiers added. Status to add and project name edit. Okay, so that is pretty much all of the text fields. You know, the search bars, I wonder if those have identifiers. They don't even have accessibility IDs. You know, that's going to be interesting. I'll deal with that in a video when we test that. Okay, so it's important you save your file, so you have to do file, save. Oops. No, I didn't just do that. Cancel. Okay, let's do file, save. Okay, save. Wait for it to save. Okay. I guess that was quick enough. Now I'll rebuild this with the run. It's not indicating that it's saved. I did save it. It kind of disturbs me that it's not showing us to save. Let's try that again. Let's wait for it to index. I mean, this is grayed out right here. A sort of kerned or darker color kind of indicates that it was not saved. Okay, that didn't save. Let me click off of it, click on. I'll do it. Command S. See if that saves. File, save. Still not updating in the UI to indicate it was saved. I'll click here. Let's save there. Let's go back. Refresh the ID. E. Here it is. Okay, now it's a lighter color here, so that indicates that it did save. Okay, I just want to make sure my changes were saved before I try to go through this process of building again. Xcode is not Eclipse. If you're working with Xcode, make sure, I'll just send this out to all the developers, make sure you've got an external hard drive set up, that you've got Time Machine running, that you've got constant backup going on. Make sure you use get to do all your source code control. Save your changes every time you do an update. Every time you got a decent build, do an update to the get repository. You may want to periodically make a complete copy of your source directory, although it wastes a huge amount of space. That way you have a recovery point to go back to if Xcode totally corrupts your system. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, check out my Xcode video. Complete mess. Let me slide this over so you can see what's going on. Now, Appium Desktop just, when you do a build from Xcode, it just gets all messed up, so no point in even hanging on to that session. You're going to have to reconnect, and refresh will not work. I mean, it's a whole new app, so how could it still be connected? Okay, let's check the version. Okay, June 19th. Okay, it did not update. Okay, we have to go through that process I went through on the last video. Don't know why this is happening. But, let's see, where's Xcode? Right here. We got to do a product clean. Now, I misspoke a couple of times on the last videos. It doesn't wipe out your source code. It wipes out your compiled executable in binaries. And then it, when you run it, it recreates those binaries and installs them on the device. Just want to put that out there. Clean does not delete your source. Just notice the clock on my iPhone 5S, it doesn't have a SIM card in it, so it's not connected to a network. As a result, the time is quite a bit off. I guess without the constant network, cellular network, updating the time, it doesn't keep the right time. Okay, that has the correct date now, which is good. Okay, so we want to make sure we're testing an updated app. Very important. Okay, before we get any further, let's connect to that using Appium Desktop and verify that ID is correct now. Start new session. Choose the appropriate capabilities. I like to bring it up here so you can see it. Make sure you're in the right project, right app, correct device. This is the Appium Desktop. This is a new app that was developed with Electron. It's a React Redux app. It's cross-platform. The same source code runs on it as runs on my Mac, as on Windows or Linux or Ubuntu or whatever. It's they've managed to choose a common language so that they only had to develop this app once, and it runs on all the different platforms from the same source code. It's really kind of genius. The original tool was written by Dan Quillar, which is the developer of Appium. That's been replaced with this. Okay, so I'm going to choose this button. So that's really not the button, it's here. And then I'm going to tap it. Then I'll touch here and verify that field is project name edit. Okay, so it has a name now, which is an accessibility ID. So it's accessible through project name edit. So let's rerun our test and see if we get better results. Back in the Eclipse. Now I'm going to add to this command, I'm going to do a -- info just to show off another feature of Gradle. Get some more debugging information while it's running. All those messages that I put in will now come out on the screen as it goes by, give you a little better sense of what's going on. But it did reset, as promised. Okay, we got a failure. Let's learn some more debugging. To my architecture. I'm going to put the code in here, but then I'm going to extract it out like I've done it so many times. So my driver is a driver.getDriver. That gets me an iOS instance. Touch 1 is a app.file find, using, perfect. And wait action 300 milliseconds, perform, we should be good, we just need a touch action. Yeah, Appium client, I believe, oh wait a minute, hold on a second, stop the bus, let's see. Okay, Appium, Java client, Appium opens Selenium internal. I'm going to go with the Java client. Okay. Wait action. It's probably deprecated. Yeah. Let's not do that. Wonder what it does give us. Move to and move to. Move to sounds pretty interesting as well. Oh wait, move to is XY. Oh yeah, that's a point or a capacity web element. Move to, oh, that moves it. Okay. Tap. Wait action. Yeah, there's some interesting things you don't get with Selenium here. Long touches and stuff. We'll be using those. I gotta be doing swipes. It's gotta get familiar with this. I'm gonna extract this right away because this is just in the wrong place. I'm gonna call it focus. And that'll be an app, that'll be reusable. Okay, I think we're ready to rock and roll. Not having a big success here tonight. Well, I'm thinking focus is not needed all the time. So let's get rid of it there. At least we can get that part working again. And it's really just a question of when I'm adding a test case. Click on add. I think we'll just add a focus right here. Kind of just focus on the problem at hand, which is the answer field. We'll just focus on that one field. See if we can get this test to run a little better. I'm going to add some documentation while I'm waiting for this to run. It's going to mess up my line numbers a little bit. So we get a null pointer exception on enter text line 115. So I messed up the line numbers by entering comments. At this point in this video, I want to just mention that after doing quite a bit of offline debugging, I did discover that some of the settings that I set early in this flag to do the resets, like the full reset and the no reset settings, those actually do the same thing as the use WDA setting, and they actually install a new app. And as a result, what I was seeing was that a new app was getting installed, which is actually an old app, and it didn't have the accessibility IDs in it. So that was causing some of the issues that I was having troubleshooting this application. So after I discovered that, I recompiled all the apps offline and then filled the directory with the latest version, and then reran the tests, and they installed a new version, which was the most recent version, which had all the accessibility IDs, and then the tests started working, as you'll see in the next segment.